God bless body in Christ. I'm not this is not a teaching. This is I want to talk about something that I talked about last night at the end of the video when I got off. So I do have my comment section open right now, but I'm not even looking at it. But I am going to get on here later on tonight and middle of the night and probably do a teaching late night. But I just want to talk about something that I was talking to my oldest daughter about and my middle daughter. We are having a conversation today, and my middle daughter was telling me about a dream that she had last night. And I never even talked to her about the situation with my middle daughter, but my oldest daughter, she was intrigued and she really wanted to know what happened about the stuff I was telling you about. All of you guys know that I am from Florida. That's my home state. And in Florida, over there near the East Coast, around that coast, we have a lot of hurricanes. We have hurricane seasons. But, if you're Floridian, you're used to it just as well as somebody in California. They are used to the earthquakes. And then you have people that's like they're living near Oklahoma, and they're used to tornadoes. They have tornado valleys and stuff like that. And everybody somewhere, we're all used to certain things. And you might have somebody live on an island that has a volcano, and then they're used to some minor eruptions from the volcano, anything. This is what we're used to and stuff like that. So I was talking to my oldest daughter today, and we were looking at documentaries. Now, the documentary that I was trying to tell you guys about last night was about, it wasn't in China and Japan because I seen it. I have seen that documentary about what happened a long time ago. But it happened in 1995. It wasn't in Japan, and it wasn't in China. It was in South Korea. And the name of the mall that I was trying to explain last night, it was called Sampoong. It's spelled Sampoong. I believe that's how you spell the um the name of the mall that I was trying to tell you guys about last night. Um the Korean guy, he owned that mall, and it was devastated. It was over 500 people passed away at that mall that day. I'm gonna talk a little bit about this, and later on I'll do the teaching. But I just want to talk about something like this because I really want you guys to really know that this stuff. I really want to have this conversation about developers. I want to have conversation about people rushing building these buildings and stuff like that. Because I'm gonna be honest, when God tells me to wrap this up over the side, I'm gonna wrap it up over the side because my heart really want to start a new channel after this and talk about these things like that. But it's still going to be biblical. I'm still going to have my biblical stance with it, and I'm still want to talk about these things. Like when I look at all these documentaries of these things, even if I'm not looking, because I see a lot of things, even where God sends me to different cities and different regions and different territories. But we're going to talk about this tonight, body in Christ. We're just having a regular conversation. I'm not doing a teaching right now. I'm gonna do the teaching later on the night. I'm gonna get back on here and do it. But if you remember in the last video I did, I was telling you guys at the end of the video, in 2023, I helped my first older sister. She went to go get her CAM license because she's a realtor. She sells houses. She works with she used to be a property manager at apartments. So she used to always be behind the scenes, be telling me the stuff, if I was to go to apartment, do stuff, she used to be behind the scenes, be telling me these things because I have a lot of sisters. I have another sister that's a teacher. I got another sister that's paralegal. They all doing stuff, brother in the military, everybody doing something. But my first older sister, I helped her in 2023 study for her CAM license. And CAM license is a community association manager. And They are the people that's actually over the HOAs and gated communities and HOAs and condominiums are these people. They're managing over these even the private apartments, people that owns apartments and stuff like that. See, because I was always wondering in my home state in Florida, those twin towers that collapsed in the year 2022. This is why I was explaining in the video last night. That was very disheartening what happened because a lot of that stuff could have been prevented like from happening. And remember I said those condominiums were built by the beach. They have more than one condominiums built by the beach. Now look, it's beautiful. It's luxury. Everything about those condominiums are beautiful by the Miami Beach. Very beautiful. And one thing I was talking about last night, this is very dangerous. The first developers that have originally built those condominiums in Miami, he built it real fast and then he turned around and he sold it to somebody else. So the owners of that condominiums, they didn't backtrack what the developers do. So this is where you get the person with a CAM license, what I helped my first older sister with to study in 2023. She got her CAM license. We were studying a whole month straight to get, she had to go take the test. And you got to put so many hours in. Each state is different. Now I'm gonna stop right here. This field as a community associate management, we need a lot of people out here in all of these states. There's not too many people that have a CAM license because a lot of these apartments, a lot of these gated communities, a lot of these condominiums, I feel like the homeowner associations, they're not holding up their bargain inside of the communities when it comes to these things, because the people that holds the CAM license is actually over the home association people. Now the home association, that's not something you go get a certificate or a license. When you're dealing with a home association, homeowners association, these are actually the people that's actually in the community. This is where you get voted in. You do a vote poll. They have a meeting and they vote to whoever they want. They got the right criteria and requirements to sit in that position. I had to study all this stuff with my sister when she went to go do her CAM license. So when it happened to the Twin Towers in Miami, they had a meeting. The homeowners association, they have an annual meeting. You have to have an annual meeting because number one, if they voted you in to be a top chairman for the homeowners association, you have to make sure that you collecting everybody's homeowners association fees. You got to make sure that who's ever sitting with you as the chairman on top of that, because there's two sections of that. Okay. I had to study with my sister. I helped her got her CAM license. I mean, y'all, I can go get my CAM license. I should do that. But it was fun helping her study, get her license. But she's already a realtor. She sells houses anyway. But what happened in Miami when they had a meeting, this is why I say I would never buy a condominium. I will never live in a gated community that has a homeowners association, because you have to abide by their rules. And I believe if you violate a rule with the homeowners association, these people can actually, if I remember, I have to Google it. I have to go back to some of the things that I have to ask my sister. I believe they can vote you out even though you bought your home. They can vote you out of the community. They can vote you out of the condominiums. I believe that's how it goes. I will never buy a house that's dealing with homeowners association. It's too much. You still don't have any freedom. So me personally, I would like to buy my own land and build my own home where I know that my structure is really going to be built the proper way. So when it came to Miami with the Twin Towers, people were complaining at the bottom ground where the garage was. They were seeing cracks within the garage. And then they were seeing cracks where the pool was. If you guys go on you can go on the internet and look at it. What happened? They got videos when it show how it just collapsed so quick. This is not something that happens over time, because when you're dealing with homeowners association, especially where I'm from in Florida, they do give you 10 to 15 years within that time to check up on the maintenance. So this is where the person with the CAM license, like my sister, she has a CAM license. She can work in the whole Florida, in any region of Florida. She goes around to all these places to make sure that the homeowners association, they're keeping up with the maintenance. They're keeping up with the proper pay works. They're keeping up with the budget. And when you're dealing with homeowners association, they also put money aside for situations like this. So all the people that was in those Twin Towers in Miami, right before this happened, this was going on some months. They had a meeting, because you have to go to the annual meeting. You can't skip the meetings. So when they went to the meeting, this is what the homeowners association, the chairman said. He or she said at the time that everybody that's living in these condominiums, they need to come out of their own pocket. And they had to reach a budget, because the inspector said when they did inspect those condominiums before they collapsed and all them people lost their lives, they told them that they need this budget in order for somebody that's going to come and reconstruct and maintenance the building. Because remember what I told you guys, I think it's dangerous for any condominiums or any houses, especially if the house is built with bricks and concretes. Okay, when you get salt water and salt and all that water and all that condemnation and all that stuff, and that's why I start off saying Florida, hey, home of the hurricanes. See, the hurricane season is bad. So when they're going through hurricane season, you get the sea. They living on the seashore, and the seawater constantly every year hitting these buildings out there on Miami. So when sea salt and seawater hits concrete like that constantly, and it's not being maintenance on, they're not checking. To me personally, they shouldn't wait 10 to 15 years to check on the maintenance with something like that next to the water. They should do that every 3 to 5 years if it was left up to me. This is why I believe that there should be a lot of people need to go to school for CAM license, because a lot of people are losing their lives because they depending on these developers to build a foundation where they stay at. So when that seawater, and all that years of hitting the foundation, because it was built on bricks on the bottom, because it showed it, that's called a chemical reaction, because that salt is eating up that concrete inside. First, it's going to expand, and then it's going to cause erosion, and that's where the crumbling came in. That's how them buildings have collapsed. This is why I don't believe in building nothing along the shorelines, especially condominiums. If you're going to do it, keep up with the proper maintenance. But because the developers, they were greedy, they didn't care about those people. That man quickly built those condominiums right there. And notice in 2022, after that horrible, catastrophic event at that time, because y'all, when I first saw it, I cried. And especially with that little boy. Can you imagine, a lot of people have passed away in their sleep. But most of the time they didn't feel it. Like when somebody said, oh, I want to go on a plane, they're afraid to fly the plane if something might happen. The reason why people may say that flying a plane is safe, because if something was to happen, say for instance, a plane was to blow up, you won't feel it. You'll evaporate just like that. The same thing like if a tsunami was to hit somebody on the seashore and you standing there and the tsunami happened, you won't even feel that neither. The weight from the waves, 200 something feet tall waves. It'll crush your body. It'll crush your bones. Less than 3 seconds. You still wouldn't feel it. But the only thing that person would feel is when somebody drown, because like your lungs are like, when somebody drown, your lungs, it go, you're suffocating inside. It go through a process. Your lungs will inflate real hard, and then they'll dry up. That's how a person suffocate. I don't feel like getting to the scientific part about that, but that's the worst way, if somebody drown. But the people that was inside of that condominiums, the ones that would sleep at the night, they didn't feel it. But there were some people that were trying to run out, but they couldn't run because those buildings collapsed so fast. This was years. This was years of negligence, greed, and negligence. My thing, don't put your trust inside of these people when they're building these buildings, because one, if it was me, because I helped my sister study for her cam license. If you live in a place that has a HOA, as a resident living there, you have the right to ask them for all of the bank statements. You have the right to ask them about the structure of it, of the business plan. You have the right to. They have to keep that public for you guys. With the homeowners association, they give them a certain enough time for them to get these information to you. If they don't give it to you, they could be fined, and then they have to deal with the community association management, the people that's coding the cam license. These people, they were living in the condominiums. To me, I feel like it was everybody's fault, but I'm sad that those people lost all their lives in 2022. Let me make sure mine. So, God bless everybody. I see y'all. I'm just talking. So, they told them, hey, we got an estimate of how much it's going to cost for us to make this on the building. So when they had a meeting, they didn't get together. They were like, oh, we don't want to spend all this much money on because we already paying the homeowners association fee. So they were like, why do we got to come out of our pocket and come together to maintenance? Well, number one, you lived there. That was your choice. You knew when you went to condominiums that you're going to have to come out of your pockets for stuff. But in actuality, they supposed to have money, a budget money set aside. Because when the community association manager comes to the homeowners association, they're going to come and say, hey, we need to look at the whole budget of what everybody, besides their fees that they're paying every month. We need to look at everything, the money, okay, the budget, because if they have leftover budget money, they can use that leftover budget money and they can say, okay, we're not going to ask the residents to come more out of their pocket to pay for the maintenance of the building. So they didn't want to do that. And because they didn't want it to do that, that's what caused the new people that was supposed to be doing the maintenance and the reconstruction on the foundation of the building. And they were procrastinating and they were taking their time. And look, a lot of people lost their lives, body in Christ. A lot of people had lost their lives. My heart, when I first saw that, because, I'm from Florida. I was in Indiana that time when it happened. I couldn't stop looking at it. When I seen a view of the aftermath of what happened to those condominiums, and I would look at the video when it showed those people collapse. You guys, we cannot put our trust. And this is what I was trying to talk to you guys last night about euphoric crashes. Sometimes you can put your trust into people And you don't need no, you if you under somebody that's not helping you build the right foundation, they're trying to rush their process fast, and then in the midst of it all, you crashing on with them. That's the worst thing you can do when you with somebody and they pulling you down while they falling. You know what I'm saying? Just like I was explaining last night about, it wasn't China, it wasn't Japan. I forgot. I had to look more into it because I saw that years ago. It was South Korea mall. The man that owned the mall in South Korea, they were supposed to build something else instead of the mall. In the mid, I guess somewhere in the mid, in the mid, the planning of it in the mid part, he decided he didn't want to build something, so they decided they wanted to build a mall. Remember I told you they had all of the AC units on top of the mall. They added extra layers on top of the first layout of what it originally was supposed to build at that mall in South Korea. Now, the first one I was talking about was the condominiums inside Miami. But the other one I was talking about too last night at the end of the video. So the owner of the mall, that man, I'm gonna be honest, over 500 people lost their lives in that mall, and over 900 and some people were injured. The whole mall had collapsed on top of people. My thing, there are people. Okay, so when the inspector came into the mall, because people kept telling the owner of the mall that they kept hearing a big cracking noise, and he ignored it. He said, I don't want to get the people out of the mall today because this is over 1,000 people here, and the revenue today, the money. He was worrying about money, greed, okay? His own daughter-in-law was inside of there. You know what he did? They knew the mall was collapsing, and they left the people in the mall. He wasn't sued, I don't believe. When I went back and looked at the documentary last night, the man, he got life in prison because 500 and something people lost their lives because of negligence and greed, the same way it was with the Twin Towers in Miami. I don't care if it's a building. I don't care if it's on a church. I don't put my faith into man. I don't depend on nobody else to make sure that my foundation, where I'm laying my head, I'm going to be asleep, or where I'm eating the word of God. I don't do that. And I feel like it's like that with the body of Christ. It's too many of y'all. Y'all be too comfortable just eating off of everybody's plates. You know what my mama used to tell me when I was to be young? You can't eat from everybody's house. I still think of that spiritually. I don't eat from everybody. I don't eat from nobody's house. Nobody don't even come in my house. But last night, my middle daughter told me, she said, Mommy, because I wasn't even talking about this at the moment. She said, Mom, I had a dream last night. We was at Walt Disney World, which I never took them and I would never go. She said, we was on a ride, and she said, Mommy, I seen this man and his wife and daughter, and they were on this ride, and this girl was on the ride, and she just told me the dream today. She said, when a ride went up or something, she said the little girl wasn't strapped in, and the little girl fell off the ride, and the little girl passed in a dream. And my middle daughter told me, she said, I said in the dream, she said that I said in the dream, y'all not getting on these things. Because my kids already know how I am for real. I don't let my kids get on no fair rides. They don't get on no rides at no theme parks. I don't let my kids get on that stuff. Because I know those people. It only take y'all a week to put up all this stuff. I know that stuff ain't bolted down. Y'all not really looking at these rides and make sure these things are safe when people get on it. I don't let my kids get on stuff. I'd rather let my kids get on a bouncy house that's been blowed up outside. But I don't let my kids get on stuff. Why? I know some stuff that I see, and I'm not being paranoid. It's just as I believe God was speaking through my. He know me. I don't let my kids get on no stuff like that. Okay, because I remember before I had kids. This was in 2006. This is 2006. My mom was with my nieces and nephew. Everybody was at the fair. God kept putting in my spirit to get my niece. He kept putting in my spirit to get my niece. And I was like, I just want to get my niece really bad. And my mom's like, why you just want to get her? I said, I don't know, mom. Just let me get her. I kept telling my mom, let me get her. So she's like, okay, you'll pack her bags. She was at the fair and God was speaking to me. He said, go get her, go get her. So I went and got my niece and brought her to my house. All right. It wasn't even at the house it happened. In the back seat of the car, I noticed my niece was turning blue. And she had her head down and she was lethargic. And she was out of it. I was like, hey, wake up, wake up, wake up. So I was, trying to get to the house. So I'm going to the house. And I picked her up and walked her up because I stayed on the third floor. And I walked her up and laid her on the couch. And next thing you know, her eyes was rolling in the back of her head. She was having a seizure. And I was like, this is way before I had kids. And I was screaming because I was watching my niece. Like, I didn't know what was going on. I knew she was having a seizure because her mom used to have seizures until my mother prayed her way through that. Her mother used to have seizures a lot growing up, but my mother took her to that prayer line, and my mother trusted in Jesus. She ain't never had a seizure again. But her daughter was having a seizure, and just imagine if I wouldn't have picked my niece up at that time when God told me to pick my niece up, she would have been on that ride having a seizure. And anything could have happened. They couldn't have stopped the ride. They wouldn't know nothing was going on. They probably thought something. She was I don't know. She probably she wouldn't been here. But prayerfully, I was listening to God's spirit. He kept telling me to pick her up. He came so strong on me. He's like, go get her. Go get her. Because if I wouldn't have got her, she would have had that seizure on a ride and no telling what would happen. And I would have lost my mind because my nieces are like my kids before I had kids. I still call them my kids. But I don't trust these things. I done seen too many kids lost their lives, lost their legs. Parents, I seen about these amusement parks that have these long slides, trying to be the world, the first theme park with the longest water slide. And with the little white boy, he was going to the water park with his family, his other brothers. He went on the ride. His body weight was too light to be on that ride. And the next thing you know, his head got decapitated. You see, I don't put my faith in none of these things that these men be out here building. But be old school. We used to have back in the day slip and slide. Put that slip and slide thing in the backyard water hose. You gotta go be all going on all these rides and stuff. I don't put my faith and trust in these things with these developers. Because I know these people are greedy. They be trying to build up these things really fast and make money, and they don't really care about people's safety. They know that kid's gonna get on this ride. So why don't y'all make sure they build these rides? They design these rides. They have some people designing these rides. They'll do a test dummy. They'll put a test dummy thing in there, test it a couple of times, and then they'll open it to the public. That's not even enough time. You got to run this thing for a long time. A parent going to amusement park, and then they coming home that got to plan a funeral. You going to the mall to do your daily shopping. You don't know what's going on. But 500 and something people lost their lives at Sampoong Mall in South Korea in 1995. You got the Twin Towers in Miami. There's so many other stories. Y'all look at a lot of documentaries, okay? Hold on, by Grace. You got a lot. There was another one I seen with this resort. It was a indoor pool, outdoor pool resort. Because I be taking me and my kids, we go on resort, but I be making sure I ask questions when I go to these places. Let me say, I used to have an old friend that worked in the hotel. She's a manager of a hotel. If when you go to a hotel and you go look inside of the elevator, because you have to have a permit for an elevator when you have a business, when you even if you want an elevator in your own home, you still have to get a permit from your city to get an elevator in your home. You still have to go through your I guess the business of at the license place. You still have to have a permit just as well as a business an establishment business have one. When you look inside of the elevator, there's supposed to be a permit that's signed off on inside of the elevator. You're supposed to see when the last time they it was inspected, because that's a different permit when you have a place of establishment of business, and when you have an elevator, because now you got the fire marshals. They're the ones, and it comes to the safety part inside of the businesses. There's different permits that you have to have. Even if you have one business, there are different permits. Like when I used to own a restaurant, my ex, there were different classes that we had to go through and get different permits when we had to open up a restaurant. Okay. So if I see that a hotel, they got one side of the elevator crossed off with some tape, I don't trust hotels like that. If I see that they always maintaining on their elevators, those are the ones that I trust. And but not just I look inside the elevator. I look at you. Gotta look in there. I'll be observing everything. I ask questions, and then I Google about this hotel. Has there been any incidents, accidents? I do a lot of stuff, y'all, because I have to worry about my safety for my kids when I'm taking vacations with them. Okay, I want you guys to do the same thing. Whether it's in the body of Christ, you're taking vacations, you're trusting these people on these rides, at these stairs. You guys ask questions, look before you hop on a ride, okay? Now I know there's some things that we can't prevent, but there's things that we can. When we went on a couple of results last year. I trusted those places because before I go, I will look at the place for a while, and I will scout it out. Okay, this place is safe. This place is safe. When we went to a resort, they had an inside outside pool and the indoor pool and all that stuff. Outside indoor pool, they had everything there. I asked questions about the rides. Let me believe, yes, because my kids, even though it's indoor, my kids said, I'm going to ask questions about the ride. I'll be asking them questions about the ride. When was the last time that y'all sanitized this pool? We're supposed to be, looking over things, a foundation and plenty of things in our lives. You don't put your hope and trust and faith in everybody, because those people that bought those condominiums, they didn't know later down the line they were going to lose their lives. When I was on an airplane, my second time going on an airplane, I was going out of town somewhere. I smell gasoline. They was about to kick me off the airplane. I said, I smell fuel. Oh, that's okay. The fuel is coming. I said, no, 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 no. I said that fuel smelled kind of strong. I was telling the flight attendant. She was like, I was freaking out on the plane, you guys. I don't play that. And so next thing you know, the pilot was like, okay, we got to shut the plane off. We got to defrost the plane. I mean, I said, what you mean you got to defrost the plane? I said, what happened if the plane do that in the sky and we just thought, I was talking crazy because y'all, that was like my second time riding on an airplane. I hate airplanes, but I had to catch airplanes to take care of some business and stuff like that. But I'm going to ask questions, especially when it's about my safety. And the fact that I'm a mom, I'm not going to put faith and hope in people when it comes to rides and stuff. This is why I like plazas. I'd rather go shopping at a plaza than to go inside these malls. Every once in a while, going in the mall, but a plaza is just it's just one story. Is one of one height. What I mean, one story. The height of it is not multiple layers of buildings like the mall. Like a lot of these malls have, because a lot of times they don't they if they're not making enough money. To me, I feel like if it's a mall that's not making enough money, they're not going to maintenance on something that they're not making enough money on. I look at everything, and I'm not being paranoid. It's because I see these things. It's nothing wrong with you asking, like, okay, I look at things. I told you guys, I'm an observer. I observe for real. But it's sad. Those people did not know they were going to lose their life in that mall that day when it collapsed. When I tell you that collapse was horrible. Look, don't even go look at it, but I'm just letting you know, that's why I was talking about the story. I was talking about foundations. And that's what happens when you rush a foundation, when you rush things because you want to be seen. And in their part, they were being greedy. Now, everybody that was in the Twin Towers, the homeowners association told them, I think they gave those people, they lost all their belongings and they lost family. I think they gave those people like $2,000 to start over. I was like, this is the reason why I don't deal with homeowners association, because I know about, I was behind the scene studying the stuff with my sister about, her part with her license, the community association manager, the CAM license. I feel like even Governor DeSantis, I don't feel like he did enough for those people when they lost their lives in that those twin towers that night. They have to start all over. Not they have to start all over while grieving the loss of their family members. Body in Christ. The man in South Korea with the mall, the Sampoong Mall, they gave him life in prison, which I'm being honest. He deserved life in prison because he didn't care about nobody. There were kids that passed away. There were elderlies that passed away. There were innocent people that passed away in that mall because of his greed and negligence. This is sad, body Christ. But I'm actually it's the weekend. It's supposed to be snowing and whatever. They don't know what this weather gonna do out here. So I don't be studying these people when they thought it's gonna snow in. I'm trying to go do my regular grocery shop, and I'm trying to figure. I'm like, why? I said, why ain't no meat? Why ain't no milk? Why ain't no eggs when I went to the store tonight? Well, they said we about to get snow. I said, I don't have time for this tonight. I still went and did my little bit grocery shop, and I had to go to a couple of stores because people out here acting crazy because they act like they ain't never seen snow. God, calm these people nerves. So I'm not to get settled before I come back on here and do this next teaching. I was just in here talking with y'all because I wanted to finish talking about what I was talking about last night, but it was getting late and I had to go somewhere in the morning, early morning. So I was just coming on here just wanted, because I was thinking about, and me and my daughters was talking about, situations today about how, don't trust people with stuff like that. I was letting them know. And then my middle daughter, she came up, she said, Mom, I actually had a dream. And she was telling me her dream that she had last night. And nowadays, you're not being paranoid if you're a parent. Don't trust these people. Like, y'all better be careful. I don't know why God gave my daughter that dream about, we was in Walt Disney World, because we're not even in Florida right now. But I don't know why God gave my daughter that dream, but I'm still going to pray about that dream that she had about the little girl fell off that ride and died. She said she had a dream last night. I'm going. We already prayed, but I'm going to pray some more. But I'm gonna go ahead and get off here into a couple of hours. I'm gonna get back on here, and then I'm gonna do this teaching tonight. And I'm just about to chill this weekend since everybody out there acting crazy. Ain't no more milk. Ain't no more. Ain't no more meat. Ain't no more eggs out there. It's all right. I'm used to. Hey, I'm used to these people be acting silly out there. Nothing. Barely can get my. I barely can get my oat milk. Okay. Because I have three different milk. I have three different milks I do in my house: lactose free, oat milk, and almond milk. I used to have goat. I used to drink goat milk, but goat milk is real expensive. Um, but it's good though. But I'm gonna be back on here in a couple of hours. Do this teaching because I ain't doing nothing this weekend. I was gonna do something, but they claiming that it's supposed to be snowed in. We will see. Okay, because I don't be trusting these newscasters. So you guys be blessed. And so I'll be back on here in a couple of hours.